This video is brought to you by Surfshark VPN. Now, we all know the internet can be a very scary place out there, and I don't just mean for the upcoming Halloween season. Go away, Michael, I'm trying to read a promo here. Without you even realizing it, websites could be tracking your location, mining personal data, and targeting you with personal ads on stuff you don't even need. That's just, little invasive, yeah, but luckily Surfshark VPN has your back in times like these. With Surfshark, you can rest easy knowing your identity is secured, letting you stay safe on public Wi-Fi, even when doing things like online banking, sending files and documents to loved ones or clients without anyone snooping around. Or you can get the best deals online and prevent websites from upcharging you, all because you live in a different area, which personally drives me nuts. I can't help if I live in the States. All of my stuff's in here. Doesn't stop there either. Geo-blocking is also a thing where streaming services can prevent you from watching different shows just because of your location. I don't get why that is, but Surfshark makes it a non-issue with their easy-to-use one-click app available on desktops, mobile phones, even gaming consoles. All this for one very affordable price too, and on top of that, you can get started by clicking the link in the description below and using the promo code JohnnyVersus for an extra 3 months free. If you're not convinced afterwards, Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in just trying it out. You gotta look out for yourself out there. Don't let your information get compromised. Thanks to Surfshark for the sponsor, and thank you as always for helping support this channel. Let's continue on with the show. Today on Spotlight, Project 06, we meet yet again. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I figured before I head into the last of the Sonic Frontiers DLC that just released today, as I'm sure you guys are probably already like sinking your teeth into, I wanted to do one more spotlight on Project 06. Now, if you're not aware, Project 06 is a passion project by one ChaosX to make one of the most notorious games in the franchise, Sonic the Hedgehog, or Sonic 06 as everyone calls it, into one of the best 3D Sonic games you can ever ask for. It's something that's been years in the making, and throughout several of those years, I've made a few spotlights covering its progression. But it has been some time since my last video on it, and my God, what the hell have I been missing? So a couple of months ago, the latest version of it was released for the public, and that was the silver release. So now, at the time of this video, we have all three major characters essentially up and available for Project 06. We have Sonic, we have Shadow, and we have Silver the Hedgehog here. And originally, this spotlight was just going to cover the silver release because that was the new thing at the time, and I figured it'd make a good icebreaker for getting into the habit of recording spotlights with my new sub Discord, which is available for both patrons and Twitch subs over on our respective channels and all that. And that was a great time. But afterwards, I realized, it's been a while since I've revisited Project 06 in its entirety. I want to see what's changed with Sonic. I don't think I've covered Shadow at all in Project 06, so I think I want to head into that for myself too. Look, let's just record the whole game. Let's just record what's all that's available here. And it took me about I'm going to say 3.5 hours to do the whole thing, and my God, what a time. This project has become certainly amazingly incredible. You can hear I'm struggling just to think of words to describe the utter joy and pleasure I had, getting to experience this from beginning to end, because when I first covered this game, the reason why I even covered it in the first place, outside of it, being Sonic content, so that's easy. People like me for my Sonic stuff. And because I feel it's really important to chronicle something that seems to be as ambitious as this, because who knows, later down the road, when we get to the end of this journey, hopefully through, passionate means and positive means rather than, oh shit, another DMCA takedown. Fuck. But I feel like chronicling that journey and then seeing how far it's come is part of the joy of doing this kind of thing. And I want to say, so far, Project 06 is, for an immediate comparison I could think of, this is essentially the AM2R Sonic games for us, right? AM2R, that was another Metroid 2 remake. And for Metroid fans, this was not only just a fantastic recreation of a game that was originally known as the black sheep of the series, but it ended up just becoming one of the best Metroid games, period. And I still hold that opinion to this day. Play the game if you haven't. Project 06, in my current view, is not just going above and beyond in fixing something that was very much broken, but it is slowly transforming into one of, if not the best 3D Sonic games I've ever experienced. Now, I know, especially in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, that is a very contentious opinion. Because everyone has their favorite game 2D or 3D otherwise, everyone has their least favorite game 2D or 3D otherwise. But what I find most impressive now about Project 06 is just how consistent it is now across the board. How it, honest to God, seems to be taking all the best things from previous outings and re-implementing it into what is shaping up to be an incredible 3D Sonic game. And the thing, like, all they had to do was really just like tinker with characters and movesets and controls just to make that work, because from my experience, just from going off the top of my head, because it has been a while since I played the OG Sonic 06, like most of the level design is essentially untouched, but that's not really the issue with me, because even I would go back and say, like, that was one of the things I was always willing to compliment the original Sonic 06 for, was that the level design I thought was damn solid. It was just everything else around it, in terms of like the programming, the story, the campaign, like surrounding the story, was just not good. It was garbage. Now, that said, this project still has a ways to go. We're now at a point where like all three major characters are essentially completed. You can play all of their stages from the Wave Ocean all the way up to Flame Core or Aquatic Base, however their story ends. But that said, there is no dedicated story mode. There are no town missions. I didn't think there was a Team Attack Amigo DLC or anything like that. And there's no boss fights. I think I said that already, but I'll repeat it again. Yeah, so there are still things to do, but in terms of like the main content, the core content, which is just the stages, all that's there, and that's what I got to experience. And folks, man, I was giggling, I was smiling throughout the whole thing, because my God, like everything just feels so much better. I mean, we can go back from character to character. We can start with Sonic. Sonic is someone I've already experienced before in different spotlights, and it's essentially the same here. Like, he feels much better. Everything about him just feels on point. The light speed dash, the slide, oh my God, the spin dash is essentially back to the way it was in Adventure 1 and Adventure 2, which means I could use it for not only like getting through things very fast, but I can also use it on like inclines or slopes and take off to the sky really high, and then homing attack to the nearest grind wheel, homing attack chains up to the wazoo, go through the rainbow rings for big point bonuses. Everything that I loved about him in Adventure 1 and 2, and his Heroes to some extent, is back here in full form. Hell, I love the fact that I can go to the extras menu and toggle on the SA1 jump animation where he just becomes a 3D ball. That doesn't mean much, but it means everything to me, because I am a nostalgic curmudgeon that hates change, and I like to just, if I have an option to make Sonic the way he was essentially in SA1, fucking you keep injecting that shit directly into my veins. I am all for that stuff. The gems too, because there's no dedicated story mode, the gems, they had to do something with the gems, right? And I love the way this game essentially scatters them on different levels, very similar to how, I guess an immediate comparison was like how you found the Chaos Emeralds in both Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, the 8-bit versions. The Chaos Emeralds were essentially just scattered on the level design. You had to go find them. Project 06 does something similar with the gems. And I like that because it gives players incentives to like actually explore these levels. You know, in the earlier days, the reason why you would do this, besides, you know, just to see what's there, you do that for increased ring counts and extra lives. You were farming extra lives, essentially. That's how you were getting them. And while that's still the case here, I think adding the gems as this collective that you can, you know, find if you, look in the right places adds, further incentive for players to keep playing the game. And sure enough, like I played Sonic's campaign twice because I was playing the game through normally, and I was like, oh, that was great. And then I found out, oh, did you know that the gems were in the game too? It's like, really? He's like, yeah, but they're hidden all over the stages. Like, get the fuck out of here. All right, so I could have loaded it back again, and it didn't have any problem because I thought Sonic's campaign was, great. So I went and found all of them, and man, I gotta say, it feels so good to have a Sonic that has a meter on the bottom right that actually works. And all the gems have been like tinkered with. They've been updated so that they're more effective on what they do. I love the slow motion effect of the red gem. It is so cool. This was always like the most notoriously like broken gem outside of like the purple one that allows you just infinite space jump. Because again, you have to think about like in the original game, Sonic's meter on the bottom right didn't work. So you have infinite use of these gems, and it just made it very easy to break things apart. And make no mistake, the gems here are still broken in some regard in terms of utility and what you can do with them, but there is limited use of them because of the meter. That said, you can still have a lot of fun with them. Like the purple gem, still had a lot of great times with it. It's just a double jump now. The sky gem, it's a grappling hook. Love grappling hooks. Blue gem, it's a boost. I didn't use the green and white gem that much either because I never really found those two that appealing because they're pretty limited. In a Sonic game, I want to go fast, and the last thing I want to do is like stop and like breakdance kick and do a whirlwind. But no, the yellow gem, the blue gem, like all those other gems, fantastic. And Sonic's not the only one that's been getting updates too. We might as well run down the entire gamut. We're sticking with Sonic though, so what is that? It's Knuckles and Tails. And Knuckles, I don't recall seeing much improvement of, because his sections were always pretty minute comparatively speaking. Like you'd had him to explore every once in a while, then you climb walls and glide, and then you get stuck on walls, and you hate everything about that. And I want to say, just from my experience, Knuckles really didn't change that much. He does feel much better to control. He doesn't get stuck on walls at all anymore, and his gliding doesn't feel as heavy. That said, I still don't think much of Knuckles in 06 because he wasn't much to begin with in the original game. Tails, on the other hand, holy shit. This, I don't want to sound too hyperbolic, right? Is it hyperbolic or is it hyperbolic? I don't know, but this is one of the best iterations of Tails in a 3D space I've ever controlled, and it's mainly an extension of how he controlled in Sonic Adventure 1. Like, he still has the dummy ring bombs from 06, which started, I think, as a multiplayer or a single attack in Heroes, right? And that was always kind of a weird thing with him, right? It's like, why does he have this as an attack? But so they bring that back, only the dummy ring bombs are not only much easier to hit shit with because you have homing reticles and all that, and they work when you hit the button. They also gave him the tail swipe attack back. And this attack, my God, for close range options, when you're on the ground, you just swipe them at the robot's knees and shit. Or what I found really fun to do, you can do the tail swipe in midair, and you can essentially do the badnik bounce on top of multiple robots at once. Now, I love this more than anything else because not only was this effective in taking care of threats, but it kept the momentum going. It kept you moving because you didn't stop at a standstill. And I've had a lot of fun just trying to chain bounce off of things with this attack and just keep things moving. You know, Tails' flight has been it's been tuned up so that you see the meter on the bottom right properly showing you how much you have left, which allows you to properly gauge how much distance you can cover. And I never found a point in my experience with Tails that's just, I should probably not fly here because I'm not going to make it. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it or not. But now that the meter on the bottom right is working, I can now fully gauge and understand what I can do and what I cannot do in this certain situation. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles is essentially like the best of everything from SA1, 2, and Heroes, without any of like the, overly constraining gimmicks that might have soured some people's opinions on them, so you don't have to worry about Tails being in a mech and shooting stuff, or you don't have to worry about like Knuckles confined to the team-based mechanic and sliding all over the ground like he has fucking butter under his feet. No, it's just like, we're going to make these as close to like the 2 adventure games, but still make it all about high-speed platforming, which is how I feel you should have as a basic foundation for a 3D Sonic game. That's where it should start, and then you work your way out from there. Now, Shadow the Hedgehog, again, I have to stress, I don't think I did a spotlight on covering Shadow's release for Project 06 when that happened. I think it was a couple of years ago at the time of this video. But hey, better late than never. And the one thing I immediately noticed is that Project 06 greatly de-emphasizes, if that's even a word, like Shadow's vehicles. There's still a couple here. You have the hang glider for I think Kingdom Valley and the beginning of Wave Ocean. And you have like the hover boat for Kingdom Valley and Dusty Desert. And I'm happy, or I guess concerned to say, that the collision and the hit detection for these sections are still about as wonky as I remember them being, but your mileage varies if that's a good or bad thing. I personally find it funny, and I kind of got to laugh that I get to the end of the Wave Ocean section with the hoverboat thing, and I end up replicating the same exact shit that happened to me in my SGB playthrough, where I reached the goal ring in the hoverboat at a high speed, and during the results screen, you just see that hoverboat just fucking take off and crash into the wall off screen. Some things never change, but I'm happy to say that Shadow, Rouge, and Omega have seen changes for the better. Now, Shadow's still very combat-centric. Like, that was always the thing with him in the original game. It's like you're homing attack and you hit buttons, you're mashing A a whole bunch, or X, depending on what console you're playing, to just diminish enemies' health bars. And it wasn't very fun because you're just mashing buttons over and over again. You were essentially adding 5 steps for something that Sonic can do in 2. In terms of basic combat, that is still pretty much the case with Shadow when you're just using the regular ass homing attack. But I think it's safe to assume you're not going to be using just the regular ass homing attack with Shadow in Project 06 because they fine-tuned his chaos control powers. My God. Like, so when you beat up enemies and things in this game, you collect these prisms, these shards that power up your meter on the bottom right. And in Shadow's case, he can use this to essentially empower himself with different levels of chaos control or chaos powers. Or I don't know exactly what it's called, but as you level up, as you activate it in different tiers, Shadow can then start throwing like long range projectiles that do damage on top of stunning things. If you're holding down the homing attack button in a certain level, you just fucking like flash zip to multiple enemies at once. And it's the coolest shit because like, unlike in the original game, which like that it still happened, but there was like a little pizzazz to it. This clearly shows like Shadow doing his Shadow the Hedgehog. You know, remember it's like the opening of Shadow the Hedgehog's FMV where he is zipping past a bunch of these gun soldiers and just beating them up while teleporting between them. And I feel that is what this greatly emphasizes. And you really do feel the impact of moving around at the speed of sound and, you know, punching these guys in the fucking face. The greatest change for me was Chaos Blast. Now, Chaos Blast was one of the better things about Shadow the Hedgehog, like Shadow's game back in 2005, how, you know, you were just so fucking angry that you just exploded into this burst of energy. It was good for taking out threats, assuming that's what you needed to do for that mission. Now, the original Sonic 06 had Chaos Blast somewhat, but not only did it look woefully underwhelming, it looked nothing like the Shadow the Hedgehog version. I don't think it really did anything. If it did, that's news to me. But in Project 06, they bring it back to its former glory as it was in Shadow the Hedgehog, and I got so much fucking use out of this, especially by the gamut of enemies that are thrown at you, like at the end of Aquatic Base or some other shit like that. I was just happy to see, like, I'm going to get into the center of this pool here, and I'm just going to release and go about my merry business, and that felt so fucking good to use. And this is all without like giving Shadow more vehicles or guns. I wouldn't mind if Shadow had more like guns, you know, make it more essentially a fast-paced Ratchet and Clank. Right? I can say that now because I played Ratchet and Clank. But what he has here is more than satisfying, and I love now that this project puts more emphasis on Shadow as a character and rather tying him down to things that I wouldn't necessarily identify Shadow with, like the vehicles or the weapons and that sort of thing. Now, you can have those as long as the gameplay remains consistent and fun, but more often than not in the original game, they weren't. They just bogged you down because they either were very unruly and in control, or they just weren't very fun to use. I'm happy to say, for the most part, that's not the case with Shadow in Project 06. And this praise also extends again to Rouge and Omega. Rouge, I guess to cover her real quick, like Knuckles, I don't think she really mattered much in the original campaign. Going off the top of my head, like she was there for a few stages, but you weren't really doing much with her that you aren't already doing with like Tails and Knuckles and that sort of shit. So in regards to what she's been updated with, not much. In terms of moveset, yeah, I mean, she feels much better than before, right? She essentially still, again, she has all of her stuff from SA2, but she also has like the explosives that she could utilize in the original Sonic 06. But her design and her level design, or at least, I guess, gimmick around her sections is now more in line with the shit that she did in Sonic Adventure 2. So they go the whole 9 yards with the adventure references when you're looking for like specific keys. The Emerald Radar is back. The keys shuffle around in different locations, so it's not always in set locations. You do have to actively explore everything. But that's not a big deal at all because this Rouge, again, doesn't clip through shit, doesn't get stuck on walls, is more than capable of defending herself through multiple means. You can fucking use your martial arts, you can throw bombs, you can stick them to the walls, all that sort of shit. What matters is that this gameplay loop is fun now, and that is like the biggest thing I can say about it. Omega, on the other hand, ended up being like, holy shit. Omega is now essentially a hybrid of Gamma from Sonic Adventure 1 and Omega's moveset from Sonic Heroes. Only, you know, Omega now feels like he has proper weight to his movements, so he doesn't slide all over the fucking place, which drove me nuts in Sonic Heroes. It's like, I love Omega as a concept. I love Omega. It's a big ass robot. Who doesn't like big ass robots? But every time I switch to him, assuming I'm not using like the flamethrower attack or some other shit, he's sliding all over the place and I'm sliding off edges of platforms and all. And it sucked, man. But this Omega, this might be the best Omega I've ever controlled because he has projectiles for days. He can just get up to opponent's face and just smack the shit out of them. He can hover, he can jump just fine. I think the best addition though is the FPS mode. Now this was something that he could do in cutscenes. I wonder to see off the top of my head, it's been a while, but I remember him when he was like confronting Mephiles, he just says, you know, fuck you, I'm gonna turn my hands into guns and I'm gonna shoot your fucking face off. And that was always like a really cool moment for Omega in the story, but now it's something you can utilize in the gameplay itself. So you hit a button, you get the target reticle, you just aim your guns and you just shoot whatever the fuck's in your way, and everything dies to this. You know, it does not matter. I mean, as long as you got some safe distance, because obviously when you're in this mode, you're exposed, you can't move much, and you got to make sure that you're within a safe distance to make sure you don't eat shit. But, you know, if you know where to place yourself, you can get all, what the fuck was that thing's name from Overwatch? Bastion, was it? Yeah, you just park in a corner, just point, aim, and shoot, and things die. It felt great. That, oh, I really ended up liking Omega in this, so I'm hoping in later updates they can do more with this guy, and that leads into something that I want to bring up later. But we have one more campaign to cover, and it's the latest one. It's Silver the Hedgehog, and oh man, Silver. So now Silver was, I mean, he was always like the underdog character, right? But his debut is in one of the most notorious Sonic games ever released, so he's for better or worse always tied to that, right? And that's deserved, but it's also kind of a shame because, especially over the last decade or so, Silver has slowly transformed into one of my favorite characters in the series, and that mainly is because of like his upgraded personality, where they didn't really tie him to being so, you know, down and out with apocalyptic storylines and shit like that. But in the Archie comics and eventually the IDW lineup, he's just a dork, dude. Like, he means well. Like, he's so adorable, and he just wants to do his best to help out his fellow animal kind in need and some other shit. Either way, love the character. Didn't really jive with the gameplay and anything that he was involved in, which is not much now that I'm thinking about it, because it's 06 and I guess Rivals, so not much to pull there for. However, in Project 06, man, his psychokinesis is still essentially the same as before. You can go up to stuff and you can use your psychic powers to grab things and chuck them at the walls or chuck them at other enemies. You can grab most projectiles or you can chuck them back at enemies. But what I love about in this game, they not only go out of their way to upgrade Silver so that he's more capable of destroying everything in his path, but he is now more in line. He's more consistent with both Sonic and Shadow the Hedgehog. This Silver overall is just much faster on the ground and in the air. His top speed is like double, triple than it was in 06. And I love the added effect of like when he's in hover mode, like he just gets his psychokinesis aura surrounding. That is such a cool fucking visual design about this guy. And I'm hoping like even in like official products, this is something that they implement, because this is how I know that Silver is on top of his game. And it is such a minute thing, but it does do wonders in just making everything just look so cool. And that's an element that I feel that every Sonic game should have. There should be this element of coolness to it, because that's what folks like Sonic for. This cool factor around him and the cast of characters. But his mid-air dash also covers a large distance. His hovering covers a lot of distance now, although your meter drains really fast. And now he just straight up got this psychokinesis like projectile attack, right? It costs meter to use, but you shoot at it, it not only homes on enemies, but it stuns them no matter how big they are or how small they are. And this makes it wonderful to just like zap them, get up to their face, fucking you chuck them with their psychokinesis, throw them off to the other side. And especially against like the big goons, like the golems, the Iblis worms. Not a problem anymore. You just get them the hell out of there and you go about your merry business. Okay, that was a lot of fun. Like, I'm grabbing everything I can in this game, like boxes, spiked balls, enemies, enemy projectiles, and I'm just throwing everything. I feel so powerful, but at the same time, not completely broken, because, you know, there's still a lot of things to avoid when you're Silver the Hedgehog, right? You know, you got a lot of terrain in the way. There's a lot of just hazards that are barring your path. So you still got to like jump around a lot of shit. It's not entirely mindless. Silver was always, he always had a heavier emphasis on puzzle solving and stuff, because he was never as fast as the other two. But now that he is more in line with those characters, well, you still got the puzzle solving mechanics, but at the very least, Silver is much faster on his feet. And of course, this also extends to Silver's buddies in this. Well, okay, not so much with Blaze, because Blaze was always fast on her feet. You know, she's Blaze the cat. And you bet your ass, like I was so excited to play this, and just, okay, so Blaze was already one of my favorite characters in the original game, which is not saying much. I understand that, but you know, I love Blaze the cat. Blaze the cat remains one of my favorite characters in the series, and I'm hoping later down the road she becomes a more of a prominent figurehead for the series. I don't know what that entails, but that's for them to figure out and not me. But I'm happy to say that Blaze the Cat wasn't changed that much. And she's still been updated in some regard, but she still has pretty much everything that made her appealing in Sonic 06. So she has the double jump. She has her own variety of the homing attack with like this sort of like fire tornado drill drive, or whatever shit you want to call it. And she still has this like on the ground spin attack, but in Project 06, you can keep that going indefinitely as long as you hold the button down. And against like those small spider bots, like very small grounded targets, this is amazing. You just spinning in circles and you just taking care of everything in your path. Now, I wouldn't recommend that against the larger goons like the Sentinels with like the lasers and the double like the legs and other shit like that. You're probably gonna eat shit more than anything else, but you have multiple options in regards to how you take care of things that in a way feels as good as what Sonic had when his camping. You know, Sonic, outside of the homing attack, you know, he had the slide attack and he can do the bounce bracelet, which was amazing against like the larger goons. And the Blaze now has a bit of an easier time in dealing with like large threats. She's fast on the ground, she's fast in the air, I can double jump to my heart's content. Yeah, man, this is the kind of Blaze the Cat I want to see in Sonic games, and I'm hoping, like fan project or not, I'm hoping like Blaze the Cat can remain this cool and fun to control in any game that she's a part of, because again, I really like Blaze the Cat, if it hasn't been really obvious. And Amy Rose, not gonna say we saved the best for last, but you gotta mention her anyway. It is her 30th anniversary after all. Now, Amy fucking sucked in the original game. It was like, oh my God, get her off the screen, get her away. I don't want anything to do with her. She was slow. She couldn't do shit with her hammer. She had this invisibility thing that made no sense for me. Yeah, every time it was time to switch to her, I was like, oh God. No, Project 06 has thankfully redeemed Amy Rose so that she is an actual character now in 3D space. And a lot of my praise for Amy Rose in this game is kind of an extension of what I liked about Tails in this iteration. She's fast on her feet now. Her double jump now doesn't strangely cut her momentum in half after the second jump, which I always fucking hated for the life of me. And her hammer attacks are hammer attacks worth a damn now. And again, like I said with Tails, you can bounce off enemies with well-timed hammer swings, and I just got a lot of fucking fun doing that over and over again. Now, comparatively speaking, I'm not just talking about like the three head honchos, but also all the other amigos too. I don't think she stands out that much, but what matters most, to emphasize something I said earlier, is that she is now more in line and consistent with the other characters. And again, I don't mean to keep beating a dead horse here, but that is the one thing that always drove me nuts about 3D Sonic games in particular, because this is not really so much of an issue I have with 2D games, although, you know, it varies. But the one thing that I always wished that Sonic games would do was just make the cast more in line and more consistent with each other. Their deviations stemming from their personalities and the one or two unique characteristics that give them a different experience, like in a high-speed platforming game. To me, emphasizing that by just completely changing the gameplay formula is not the way to go. Now, that could work for different reasons, assuming the gameplay is even good, but what I personally yearn for is just a Sonic gameplay, but with a character's twist on it. And I feel Project 06 more than anything is doing this part right. Now, it's not perfect, we're gonna get into it, but throughout my session playing this, like, I'm not getting tired, I'm not getting bored. This is what I yearn for in Sonic games, 2D, 3D, otherwise it doesn't matter. Everyone here is more than capable of solving the challenges laid before them without constraining or compromising elements that make the characters what they are. And I want to see more of that in not just this, but in any Sonic game release from this point forward, you know? More than anything, I want to have fun in my Sonic game, and I feel this is a good way of demonstrating that. Now, it's not perfect, as I was alluding to earlier, and I think the biggest problem I have with Project 06, I mean, outside of the frame rate taking a shit when I have the game running on too long, this happened a couple of times, and most noticeably, I noticed it happened almost all the time in Kingdom Valley, and I think Flame Core at some point, but I don't know, chalk this up to like the engine not being as stable as it could be my graphics card, I'm not sure, but the frame rate would just take the biggest shit on everything. And I think the worst of it was it was a PowerPoint presentation, and I had to turn the client off and turn it back on. Thankfully it didn't happen like every other level, but when I got to certain stages, I was like, oh shit, like this is bad, this is worse than the original game. Oops. Now, I'm finding this a little tricky to put into words, so forgive me if I'm not entirely clear on what I'm trying to get at here, but I felt this the most with Silver's campaign more than anything. But now, with how like rebalanced these characters are, how all of them are now like consistently fast. They can all do these high speed antics. There are now obvious quirks in the level design that doesn't accommodate them well as much as they could have. And I felt this the most with Silver's campaign, because in the original game, again, to emphasize, Silver was the slower, more methodical character between the two. It wasn't so much about high speed antics. It was about using the psychokinesis to like move shit out of the way, solve puzzles and all that sort of thing. And again, from my experience, level design throughout all three campaigns seems fundamentally the same. If there's major differences, I didn't immediately notice them. I have to go back and like play both like side by side to get the real answer. But with Silver, because he has now been tuned up to be quick, anything that involves tiny ass platforms that you have to precision platform on is just now a miserable time with Silver. Like Crisis City, whenever you have to use the runes to like make cars and debris float to act as makeshift platforms. Oh my God, Tropical Jungle. This is the worst stage for Silver now. Because not only do you have to, assuming you're not like, you know, using psychokinesis to your full advantage, you got to deal with those slow ass turtles. And now with these logs that you have to jump on and use the runes to like knock down barriers with, I can't tell you how many fucking times I slipped off that goddamn log because I overshoot my trajectory. No, like my trajectory is just so goddamn wide and large that I fly over everything and I fall down to my death more times than I can count. And that was all a Tropical Jungle. And I feel this is only a problem now because the level design no longer accommodates Silver's new abilities, his new speed. And I'm not entirely sure how much it will be asking of me for like ChaosX or the folks behind the scenes. I'm not entirely sure if ChaosX is like the only one doing everything here or if this is a team project or some other shit. But I feel now with these characters like being updated and all that, like some level design doesn't hit the same way, or it's now made more troublesome because it doesn't accommodate the new movesets and the new speed, especially for Silver's case, which again, I had a lot of fun with Silver. But my lowest points were with Silver the Hedgehog across all three campaigns. And it has to do with like how tiny some of these platforms could be and how fast Silver is now. You can probably make the argument now with how updated these characters are, how fast they are, the things they can do, that being confined within the world of Sonic 06 is now limiting them, which I believe in a way is both a bad and a good thing. Because bad as in, as it is now, some levels clearly weren't designed with the characters to have these kind of movesets. So assuming you don't know the ins and outs or how to break things here and there, casually speaking, just playing the game all willy-nilly might give you some trouble because the level design, again, is mostly intact from the original game. But I would also argue this is a good thing because, like, fan game or not, Project 06 or otherwise, the foundation for these characters, I feel it's the best it's ever been in a 3D space. Like, outside of, like, you know, different sort of gameplay styles, like you got your 3D Sonic, you got your boost formula and that sort of shit. In terms of, like, the adventure style games, all these characters, I think, are perfect in terms of how they handle and what they can do. But I don't think keeping them in Sonic 06 brings out their potential to their fullest. At some point or another, now this could be years, decades from now, assuming it's sticking to fan projects and maybe, you know, maybe Sonic teams say, like, fucking write that down. I want to see these characters in a completely new environment that takes full advantage of their capabilities. That's not like fucking test demo project 3962. You know, I'm talking about a full-fledged, created from the bottom up 3D Sonic game with all these guys that takes advantage of everything they can do. Now, again, we may never get that. That is, in my eyes, a very ambitious endeavor that I don't expect one person, let alone a team, to do anytime soon. It's just a fever dream of mine. A fever dream, what the fuck? I guess a wish of mine that I would like to see happen one day or another. And when it does, fucking instant review right then and there, a spotlight if there's a progression like to Chronicle. But what's important now is that this is without a doubt shaping up to be one of the best Sonic anything that I've ever played in my life. And I'm speaking as someone, like, every year, like, I host those Sonic hacking contests showcases, which again, that's coming up in October, by the way, just a quick heads up on that one. You know, I have had my fill of different fan games from like the Sonic Amateur Game Expo and what have you. And like, there are a lot of winners in those showcases too. But this one, again, this is like my third or fourth spotlight video on this game alone, and that's for good reason. I mean, besides the fact that Sonic's easy, that's a quick buck. Thank you for clicking the... No, I keep coming back to this because we're getting so close. I mean, it has happened already. We have a Sonic 06. That's the Sonic Adventure 3 it was always meant to be. Yeah, you know, people can say it's like, you know, Sonic Heroes is Sonic Adventure 3, maybe Shadow the Hedgehog is Sonic Adventure 4. And listen, I won't argue against it, well, too much, but life's short, you know. But Sonic 06 was always looked at as like the true Sonic Adventure 3. It has a lot of things that the first two adventure games set up that they try to run with, but it, you know, but it ended up not working for a lot of reasons. But now we're at a point where everything is working out as it should have been close to, oh my God, close to 20 years ago. Fucking this game is close to 20. And we still got a couple of years, so I don't want to like age it too fast, but it's taken a long time. But ChaosX is transforming Sonic 06 into the game it should have been like all those years ago, and then some. Like, knocking on wood here, or the equivalent, I know this might be fake wood actually, but assuming development for this game continues, right? Whenever they decide to go back and finally finish all that shit, and it keeps the same production values of things that we've already seen here, and you can already see it, like, my God, like when I loaded up like Shadow's campaign and Silver's campaign, and I'm seeing some stages have these introduction cutscenes that are well animated, they're very expressive, miles better than everything we got in the original game. I'm just like, holy shit. Like, could you imagine when this game is finally finished, however long that might be from now, and we got story beats, cutscenes, dialogue, text that are of the same quality as this? I mean, the story may or may not be the same or changed because, you know, that's heavily integrated into the plot, but still, even considering that, if it has all these neat little bells and whistles, this might be one of the best 3D Sonic games ever made, or if not just one of the best Sonic games, period. Again, I don't want to jinx anything, but that's what this is shaping up to be like. And what a transformation. I mean, the age-old expression is you can polish a turd, but at the end of the day, it's still a turd. And I'll agree with you on that. But in my eyes, this is fucking alchemy. This is not polishing a turd that's still a turd. This is turning a turd into gold. You guys need to play this game if you haven't already. You'll find a link to the game itself in the description below. I'm not going to say anything much else other than Project 06 is shaping up to be one of the best Sonic related things I've ever experienced, and you guys should take some time and play it for yourself. But with that said, we're going to wrap it up here for Project 06 and for another spotlight. Sonic Frontiers DLC, the final round of it just came out. I'm going to be working on a round 2 of that eventually, probably within the month of October. Now, as if there's not, oh my God, October is so fucking packed. My God. Oh, first world problems. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys look forward to the round 2 of Sonic Frontiers, as well as the other videos I have planned for the month of October, because I'm working on another versus video right now, and I hope you guys look forward to that because it's going to be a big one. In terms of just like how long it's going to be, I'm not sure if it's going to be like an hour long or something like that, but yeah, it's going to be pretty neat. I'm covering multiple games at once, and I hope you look forward to that. I'll let you guys know what it is as I get closer to releasing it, because I don't want to give away what it is just yet. Oh, you guys probably already know what it is, especially if you've followed the Patreon or like subscribe to my Twitch or nothing like that. But thank you so much for your time and company. Here's the end card. Here's the links to the previous spotlight that I did a couple weeks ago concerning Ugly. You can also catch a whole playlist of other spotlights here too. I'll catch you guys next time. As always, thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic night and take care.